All right, let's just jump right in. If you're in the data world, you know the game is totally changed. We're all living in this multi-cloud reality, right? And it's incredibly powerful, but man, is it complex. So the big question is, how do you architect something that can actually tame all that complexity? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
Think about it. For any modern company, data is pretty much your number one asset. And to really get the most of it, that data lives all over the place. AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, you name it. Spreading your data like this means you can use the best of the best services, from specialized AI models to lightning-fast analytics engines. It's all about picking the absolute right tool for the job, no matter which cloud it's in. And that's the promise of multi-cloud.
But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. All that freedom comes at a price. When your data is everywhere, your control is, well, pretty much nowhere. You've kind of traded a single, easy-to-manage system for this sprawling, chaotic mess.
And that brings us right to the heart of the problem for data leaders today, the multi-cloud data maze. You know, when you try to just do it yourself, you often end up with this tangled web of data pipelines and security rules that's a total nightmare for your data teams and honestly a massive risk for the business. And these problems, they just feed on each other. You get data sprawl with copies of the same information popping up in different clouds. That, of course, sends your storage costs through the roof. And then, just trying to manage and govern this whole thing becomes an absolute headache, which in turn opens up all these giant security and compliance holes. It's a vicious cycle.
So how in the world do we fix this? We obviously can't just turn back the clock. What we need is a whole new playbook. Instead of trying to cram all our data back into one central box, the new way of thinking is all about federation. And this isn't just a small tweak, it's a fundamental shift in how we think about managing data. The first play in this new book is the Lakehouse. Just think of it as the best of both worlds. You get all the cheap, super flexible storage of a data lake for your raw, messy data, but you combine it with the rock-solid data management, security, and performance you'd get from a traditional data warehouse. It's a game changer.
The second key idea is federated governance. Now, this is where the real magic happens. The data doesn't move. Let me say that again. The data stays right where it is, whether that's in AWS or sitting on-prem, but, and this is the key, it's all managed by a single central set of rules and policies. So you get the best of both worlds. Individual teams have their autonomy, but the whole organization is playing by the same rulebook.
This diagram really shows how it all fits together. You can see data flowing in from all these different sources. In the middle there, it's getting processed and validated. And then it lands in whatever storage makes the most sense at the bottom. And the whole time, it's not being copied into some big central hub. It's just a much smarter, way more efficient way to work.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how do you actually build this thing? Let's open up the architect's toolbox, and we'll start with the brain of the whole operation, the unified control plane.
The difference here is, honestly, it's night and day. The old way is this messy patchwork of different tools, manual permissions, and rules that change from one system to the next. The new model, like what you see with things like Databricks Unity Catalog, gives you one single place to manage everything, from access control to auditing, and it's consistent across every single piece of data you have.
And here it is. This is that holy grail, right? The single pane of glass everyone's always talking about. This dashboard gives you a complete centralized view of your entire data world, from the business definitions all the way down to the individual tables and columns. No more flying blind.
So how do these platforms really solve our multi-cloud headaches? Well, first, they centralize all your metadata, so you finally have one source of truth. They automatically trace your data lineage from end to end, which tackles that huge complexity problem. And, maybe most importantly, they let you set crazy specific access rules. We're talking down to the individual column level, which is a massive win for security and compliance.
So we've got control. Awesome. But now, how do we actually use the data? The next tool in our toolbox is all about querying data without ever having to move it. And believe me, this is where things get really, really cool.
The key piece of tech here is what's called a universal query engine. It all started with this incredibly powerful open source project called Trino. Then, a company called Starburst came along and basically put Trino on steroids, adding extra layers of security, governance, and support that make it perfect for big companies.
And the performance gains? They are for real. I mean, look at this, a 300% improvement. Think about what that actually means. It means your data scientists can run queries in minutes instead of hours. That's a huge productivity boost, and it unlocks whole new types of analysis that were basically impossible before.
So how does this magic actually work?
Well, it all starts with a modern cloud architecture that does something really important. It separates compute from storage. This means your query engine isn't physically tied where your data is stored. That separation is the key that unlocks everything else.
Now check out this diagram. That gray bar on the left, the metastore, that's the secret sauce. It's like a universal catalog that knows where everything is, no matter what cloud it's in. This is what lets a query engine like BigQuery Omni, up in the top right, reach across the cloud boundaries and analyze data sitting in AWS or Azure directly. It basically creates one giant virtual data lake.
So, we've covered the problems, the big concepts, and the tools that make it happen. Let's put it all together into a clear, simple blueprint you can use to build your own unified data strategy.
It really just comes down to these 3 steps. First, centralize your governance, not your data. That's the mantra, right? This gives you control without creating a huge, expensive silo. Second, adopt a lakehouse architecture. You get that perfect blend of flexibility and muscle. And third, use a universal query engine. Let your teams analyze data right where it lives, which saves a ton of time and money. That's the formula for success.
And that leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending thought. For decades, we've organized our entire world around where data is stored. But with this new architecture, data doesn't really have a single location anymore. It's just available. So the real question is, when location becomes irrelevant, what new possibilities does that unlock for your business? What can you do when your data is truly everywhere, all at once?